Strange, but true stories. Tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White. Over the time we have been producing stories for this channel, we have requested people to send us their own experiences. Many of the stories that we receive have one similarity. The people telling the story were open to the experience, and therefore reason that is why whatever strange phenomena they experienced happened to them. They aren't always strong believers in the paranormal, but are open to the idea. Such is the case with the following two stories in this episode, sent to us by two women and viewers just like you. I come from an artistic family that is very open-minded, and so as a kid I had a lot of freedom. I grew up in Holland, and the house we lived in had been converted a few times over its 150-year history. It was a really neat building that started out as a church, then it was converted to a school before it was finally remodeled into a house. It was such an amazing place to grow up. When I was about 8 years old, I moved to a different bedroom in our house. I'd gotten too big for my old room. It wasn't long after I made the move to this new space that I started noticing a figure in my room at night. I wasn't scared or nervous. I suppose growing up in the family that I did, I was open to this sort of experience. The first few nights I saw this figure, I just ignored it. It did not feel threatening, it was just there, and that was fine by me. As I continued to see the figure, I started to get curious. It wasn't doing anything, so I was wondering what, if anything, it wanted. I began to see the figure more clearly, and I would see it like this every night. Even though I was seeing this apparition more distinctly, it still wasn't scary to me. It went on like this for some time, to the point that it felt like a very normal thing to have a ghost hanging out in my room, like everybody had one. I never even told my mom about it, because to me, it was normal. I had some paints and an easel in my room, so I painted the image of the figure and included the words, "Let's call it Ghost for now," on the canvas. I showed my mom the painting, and the image gave my dear mom a fright. The painting was of a girl about the same age as me, with a very, very long neck. She had black hair and wore a white dress that was not current, not of this time period. It was an old-timey dress. Her mouth was open wide, and blood was gushing out of her mouth and eyes. My mom asked me why I painted such a horrible picture. I told her, "That's a girl that stands by my bed every night." In retrospect, I don't know why this girl did not scare me, because when I see that painting now, I can imagine how scary she looks to adults, let alone a kid. I began to read about ghosts and learned that one of the theories of ghosts is that they aren't able to move on fully because there's something unfinished that needs attending. I was older now, about 12 by this time, and I set my mind to figuring out what this girl was trying to tell me or what she needed. I invited two of my friends over to the house, and I brought up the idea to sit down and just ask her. We created a protective circle against bad energies around us, and hopefully to not invite anything unwanted. I just closed my eyes and said, "Please, girl, tell me what I can do for you." After about a minute of asking her that question and waiting for some sort of response, I began to see this movie in my mind. Now, I would say I went into a trance, but then I didn't know what a trance was really. The setting was rural. I didn't recognize it, but I got the sense that it was near where my grandmother had grown up in Zutphen, Holland. This little girl, the girl from my room, was walking down a path next to green fields. Her black hair flowed behind her, and she was wearing the white dress that I saw her in every night. Then I saw a man on a tractor. He stopped the tractor and hopped off. The man walked over to the girl and hit her over the head with a shovel. He picked up her lifeless body and put it in his tractor. He dug a shallow grave with the shovel that he had killed her with and buried her. That seems like a simplistic series of events, but it's what I remember. After he buried her, the images stopped. I opened my eyes, and my friends had an amazed look on their faces. They told me that I had been unresponsive for several minutes. They said they tried to talk to me, but it was if I couldn't hear them. In truth, I couldn't hear them at all. I don't remember them trying to communicate with me during that time. Afterwards, though, I felt great. I told them what I had seen and that I truly believed that it was what the girl wanted and needed. She simply wanted someone to know her tragic story of what happened to her. This story doesn't end like a movie, though. I didn't recognize the man, and since this girl, who I believe was named Emily or Elizabeth, was dressed in clothing from a long time ago, the man responsible was long gone anyway. She knew him, though. When he got off the tractor, she actually greeted him. It could have been a neighbor or somebody close to the family. Alas, I wasn't able to solve her murder, but I believe I was able to give her the peace that she sought. She just wanted somebody to know what happened to her after all those years. After this experience, I never saw her or any other ghostly apparition in my room ever again. In fact, I haven't had any sort of experience like that since. Was it simply childhood imagination? I don't think so. It was too real to me. Around March 2018, I had a strange experience happen to me that I can't really explain. It was around 1 a.m. I had finished playing video games for the night and was about ready to go to bed. I had a glass of warm milk and then went to my room, got into bed, and tried to fall asleep. I struggled to drift off, though. I felt weird. I had these goosebumps all over my arms and legs. My room wasn't cold, and I had 2 blankets over me, so there was no logical reason for me to have this insane amount of goosebumps. I finally was able to fall asleep, and almost immediately I began dreaming. It was a very vivid dream. I heard this nasally voice of a girl calling my name. Carolina, Carolina. I thought maybe my mother was calling on me, so I tried to ignore it, but it kept getting louder and louder. What? I called out in my dream. I remember I was standing in water, and my feet were soaking wet, but my legs were dry. Then she called my name again. Carolina. I was beginning to get frustrated. In my dream, I had answered this woman several times, but she responded with nothing other than the sound of my name. Then I heard a splash. I turned to see a woman who I thought initially was my mom, but she looked different. Younger for sure, but definitely a very close resemblance. Her hair was ginger instead of my mother's blonde. What? I asked her again, and she looked at me. She was older and taller than me. You're a good girl, she said to me. I became afraid. Was this woman going to drown me in this lake? Was she just praising me before doing it? But she didn't. She just looked at me for a while. Her eyes were green like mine. She walked closer to me, reached up her hands, and she cupped my cheeks. Then she sunk down into the lake, and I woke up right after. What just happened? What or who had I seen? This dream was so vivid and the girl was so familiar. It didn't feel like an interpretable dream, but something intended to deliver a message. The next day, I told my mother and father about the dream. As I told them my story, described the girl from my dream, and mentioned what this girl had said to me, my dad gasped. I asked him why he was so surprised. He told me the person I had dreamed about was my sister. I didn't know I had a sister. This was news to me. He then told me the story about what happened to her. She died when she was very young. She drowned, not in a lake, but in the bathtub. Her name was Violet, and she was 8 when she died. My dad talked about her beautiful red hair and how she would ask him if she was a good girl. It was just a thing she did. It wasn't anything I had ever done, nor did he try to mimic that with me. I had never heard that from him before. Later, my dad took me to her grave. It was scattered with toys, and it was so beautiful. I laid down a bunch of flowers and wished for my secret sister to rest in peace. This has been another strange but true stories submitted to us by viewers just like you. Do you have a story you would like to share with us? We would love to hear about it. Send us an email to strangebutTrueStories2@gmail.com. Tell us what you thought of this video in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and sign up for notifications so you know when the next video drops to the channel. Check out our website and like our Facebook and Instagram pages. Thanks for watching. I'm Steve White. Until next time.